The Film Basement is filmed in sunny West Hartford, Connecticut, in front of a live studio audience.
Welcome to the Filmmaker's Basement, where we are still dying for good entertainment in this movie wasteland. I'm Brandon.
I'm Andrew.
And we're going to be going over some of the movies and television we saw this week, in addition to playing a game show later on. And on that note, I saw a movie that I had heard nothing about called The Curse. So, have you ever wondered what a werewolf tentacle monster looks like? Have you ever wanted to watch a half-man, half-scarecrow Freddy Krueger harass some 19th century villagers? Then The Cursed is the movie for you. We follow a pathologist who arrives in a town with blood on its hands, being harassed by forces beyond their understanding. This prolonged romp through 19th century England features all the horror tropes you'd expect from the time, while also debuting some new ideas. So overall, it's a pretty competently shot movie, with some like good costuming, some good shots, cool ideas about like the werewolf mythos, because that's kind of what this is about. But overall, I ended up being really tropey, and I'm gonna be honest with you, so forgettable. I honestly forgot I watched it until I started writing my review for it. So going into this movie, from what I had heard about it, I assumed this was going to be something more akin to like a cosmic horror / like unexplained forces attacking people and there's not too much we can do about it kind of movie. Like in attempting to kind of fight against that futility. And what I got was kind of more like ancient curse put on this land. We're trying to overcome said curse with some weird ideas about where the curse comes from. But on that note, I will say this is a really competently shot movie. I was hearing things being said that this was apparently a very low budget movie, and it really does not feel like it, mainly from the effects, cinematography, costuming. Like, it feels like you're in the 19th century, like a random 19th century village, which was a nice touch. Cinematography was very good. I wrote in my notes, this movie had the audacity to just sit there and watch as the horror unfolds. Which is used well in certain sections and kind of boring in other sections. The main scene that really pops out to me is in the beginning. What kicks off this whole curse essentially is these wealthy UK like businessmen essentially are in this kind of like land feud with these gypsies who own the land they're on essentially. They essentially wipe out the gypsies. And we see this happen through this really long take of the camera just sitting on this hillside watching as these like UK men run through and just shoot everyone, to like burn their tents to the ground, and very graphic scene. That built some tension nicely and added a lot of atmosphere to the movie itself, which I really liked. I also noted that this scene was very similar to what I was thinking with Death on the Nile should have had, just like a scene where we sit in and kind of watch what's going on, and we kind of just simmer in that. So again, overall, really nice cinematography. And like I said, the costumes were really popping. They just looked really good. It looked like something going to take place in the 19th century, which should be expected, but it was also really nice to see all the little touches they had on the costumes and all that kind of stuff. I'll also say in the costuming area, the practical shots of the monsters generally looked really good. For context, they kind of look like a mix between, it's hard to describe, like kind of almost like a naked dog mixed with some very human features. They're gruesome to look at, but like the practical shots of them, like with monsters being out and about, they look pretty solid. There's one scene towards the middle of the movie where like they kind of kill one of the monsters. And this will also go into the cool ideas that I had about them. So this will actually be a great transition for that. Where like they bring this huge beast, they put it on this table and cut it open. And one of the people who got turned to the werewolf is like inside of it. Almost like piloting it. Like it's a mech or something like that. And as they're coming out, like, the effect looks really cool as they're coming out of there. There's, like, these weird tentacle things coming out of them, like, and this person's just, like, hissing at them. It looked really good. I will give it that. And in that vein of the new ideas, I liked kind of what they were playing with the werewolf trope, because a lot of those, usually werewolves, vampires, ghosts generally aren't my thing, because they feel very played out and like well explored idea wise. So it was kind of refreshing to see a take on a werewolf that wasn't like this curse came from nowhere. This is like, no, these gypsies cursed these people, and like now they're kind of like having their entire community torn apart because these few wealthy people decided to come in and kill all these other people. In that the curse of the werewolf can only be lifted once an equal amount of blood has been spilled on their side. So essentially, for every person who is killed in the gypsy community, an equal amount of people have to be killed in their community by these creatures. Which was a really neat note for that. I'll also say, like, while I was kind of making fun of their design earlier, I do think it was an interesting choice to go, and I kind of liked it as opposed to just seeing like the stereotypical hairy wolf person. And so it was a little refreshing to kind of see that. I will also say though, they do go into like the curse a little bit and how it works, which is weird. Something has to do with like coins from Judas or whatever when he betrayed Jesus. That doesn't really make as much sense. It was really weird. But what was also kind of in that same vein was the guy who comes into the town, the pathologist. He mentions that essentially people can't really come back from being a werewolf. We get that in that scene I was mentioning earlier where they kind of cut this woman out. She is still alive inside of it, but she's kind of like a feral beast at that point. Like, she's not really human anymore. But towards the end, I won't really say how, this logic's kind of disregarded, and it doesn't really make sense why it's disregarded. So I didn't like that as much. It felt very weird to see, like, these rules they kind of built up for these creatures just kind of come to nothing when it falls into the category of main characters. I'll also say it was very tropey for like a lower budget horror movie. They had the very like stereotypical jump scares in it, which jump scare horror isn't my thing. I think there are much more interesting ways to do a horror that are far more terrifying, and they used a lot of jump scares in this movie to kind of get a rise out of you. Which I kind of made the horror feel more cheap, and like kind of made those long shots like where we're dealing with these really horrific situations, like contrasting those with a cheap jump scare that comes out at you. It's just, it didn't vibe well for me. And then my last gripe, which I mentioned earlier too, was that it was kind of forgettable and a little bit boring. This movie was I think about 2 hours long, and I think it could have been a bit shorter because it felt like it was dragging on, and I'm not really sure why it was dragging on. Like, it didn't feel like we were dragging on for anything. Much to contrast, for instance, Death of the Nile that I saw last week, where it's a movie that was 2.5 hours long but felt like an hour and a half. This is like 2 hours long but felt much longer than that. And again, not for much, because like I said, I almost forgot I had seen it, and I just saw it yesterday. So overall, I don't really think I could recommend it. I will say, for its credit, the cinematography was nice. Costumes were very poppin' for the time period. If you do like that aesthetic, I would say maybe give it a shot. You might enjoy it. And the new ideas were cool. There was a cool take on werewolves, but maybe it just wasn't for me. But I don't think I can recommend it just based off of how not very interesting it was.
Well, interesting. It's yeah, it just sounds, it's not something that's up my alley.
Yeah.
So like when I was looking at it, I was like, it's not really something I would go see just because I'm not big on the horror genre. But
yeah,
it's an interesting piece where it's a horror that's based in a specific time period instead of like current day, which is
I will
neat.
also say in the tropey area, this is I don't know if it's really a trope so much as a style for these kind of films. The footage, how do I say this? The film was shot like very drearily, like it was very blue, like it had a very blue tint to the entire movie, and it was very dark and like grimy. And maybe it's just me, but I'm very tired of horror movies going down that route because it feels very played out.
Right.
Like, just I get it. I've seen a million horror movies where it's like it's dark and dreary and everything's very blue, and it's like, I don't know. As I was watching this movie, it made me appreciate, because I had seen Midsummer kind of recently. It made me appreciate how that was a horror movie that was very bright and vibrant while still maintaining all that horror. It's like you don't have to be like, you don't have to have this dreary aesthetic to be scary. There are movies that definitely do that well, like The Babadook and such, but like, as a rule of thumb, like, maybe try something else because it feels very played out.
Well, I went and saw PlayStation Studios Uncharted, and boy,
I have not been hearing good things about it, so I'm very curious.
it's got really good fan reviews, so it's just the critic reviews are kind of down. It's got an average score on IMDb. It's not a terrible movie.
Okay.
It's not, and I haven't played the Uncharted games in so long that I couldn't tell you if it's a good adaptation to the game. I do know it's kind of like set in its own universe. It's not really the story of the movie doesn't really take place from one of the games like other types of video game movies have. But it follows a street smart Nathan Drake who is recruited by a seasoned treasure hunter, Victor Sully Sullivan, to recover a fortune amassed by Ferdinand Magellan and lost 500 years ago by the House of Moncada. And this movie had huge National Treasure vibes. Mainly because a lot of the Uncharted game, from what I remember, is it is a shooter. It's a third-person shooter, so you have a weapon and everything, but it is very much like a puzzle type of game where you're solving puzzles, and there was a lot of that in this movie. I will say it did move awfully fast within the first 5 minutes of the movie, after we get a little prologue of like 15 years ago or whatever. Once we get into the present day, it moves very quickly and decisions are made very hastily. I also don't like when a movie starts in the middle of the movie. So in the trailers, you get the shot of Tom Holland's Nathan Drake's character being, pulled by a C-17 aircraft. He's outside of an airplane and he's trying to get back in the airplane by jumping on a bunch of crates, which is something that happened in, I think, the third Uncharted game. But the movie starts there and then it goes back to 15 years ago, like when he was a kid. And then it goes to present day, but present day isn't from where we left off last. It's present day before the airplane thing. So it was a little confusing. It's just like, why not just start at 15 years prior, jump me to present day, and then just continue? Why are we showing this clip, this 2-minute clip of him outside an aircraft halfway through the movie at the beginning? It makes no sense cinematography wise. But everything moves fairly quickly. There's like a little montage of him trying to figure out a heist that he has to do that obviously goes horribly wrong. I will say they do a good job. I don't, like I said, I haven't played the games in so long that I can't say that Tom Holland's portrayal of Nathan Drake was good or not. I do know that Drake is more of a kind of like a philanthropist treasure hunter where he's not in it for himself, unlike the other characters in the movie who are obviously very in it for themselves, and there's a lot of double crosses in this movie, which got old after a little while. Lots of puzzle solving with these keys that they had to acquire, and then you have Antonio Banderas' Santiago Moncada, who is the main villain of the movie, trying to stop them along the way. And he's obviously a rich person. So that's why I was saying it has a lot of like National Treasure vibes, where like this plucky protagonist character is on a treasure hunt, solving puzzles, and is being hunted by a wealthy antagonist who is trying to also get his hands on the treasure for himself. So yeah, I was like, it was kind of like a mix between Indiana Jones and National Treasure, and I was like, it was it was like an hour and 45 minutes. And
really?
It sets up for a sequel. So, you know, if they do a sequel, I'll probably go see it. I probably won't play through the Uncharted games just because there's 4 of them, and I don't really want to do that. I don't have a lot of free time, so, you know, I thought it was okay. I mean, I'd recommend going to see it. I mean, you don't have to go play the games to watch it. Obviously, I didn't. Well, I haven't in a while. But, you know, it's an action movie. It's a puzzle solver. You kind of figure out the puzzles before the characters figure out the puzzles. So it's very obvious. It's like, come on, you can't figure this out? Let's go now. I would have figured this out a while ago.
I am genuinely curious because, like, I would not have expected this movie to be an hour 45 long. That seems almost shorter than I would have thought I saw from the trailer.
Oh, hour 56.
Okay, that makes a bit more sense.
With trailers, it was about an hour 45.
Okay. So in that vein, how do you think the pacing was in this movie?
Well, the beginning was very fast. Like everything was very, very, very quick, and then it slowed down around in the middle, and by the end it was at a really good pace. For like a treasure hunter movie. But the beginning was just like bam, bam, bam. Like he's a bartender at a bar. He's hitting on a girl, and then Mark Wahlberg's character approaches and be like, "I got a job for you," and he's like, "No," and then he steals something that Tom Holland's character stole off of this girl, and so Tom Holland's got to go get the thing he stole back from this guy, and he's like, "I still have a job for you," and he's like, "No," and then like 5 minutes, like not even like 30 seconds, he's just like, "You know what? I'll do it. I'm in." Like, what? Where did the time get? It just seemed like no time had passed in between him being like, "No, screw you," and then him being like, "Okay, what are we doing? When did we start?" And then, yeah, it was just, they had the little montage of trying to figure out the plan of stealing a key. And then once they stole the key, after that, it had a really good pace because it was, you know, it was more well thought out after that with the puzzles and the search for the treasure of Magellan, and the antagonists were on their tail the whole time. So, you know, I thought it was okay. You know, like I said, the beginning, not so much, but by the middle and the end, it was really good. So.
That's honestly good to hear because I was not hearing great things about it overall. So it is cool to see that there's another film out, video game movie out there.
Critics haven't liked it. I mean, to say it's a good movie, like it's a good video game movie, I don't. Yeah,
it's an okay video game movie, I think would be the best way. It's like Sonic. It's very okay.
I didn't even see Sonic.
It was very okay. It was not terrible.
I don't even want to see it, if I'm being honest. But
yeah.
It's got a rotten score on Rotten Tomatoes, but the audience score is a 90. So which critics don't like it, but
that seems typical for like a movie like this, like a fan base who is like, "Oh my god, this isn't terrible, awesome, we love it." So, well, even still, always good to hear that there's still some good video game movies out there. And on that note, let's change gears and let's go over to Pilot Wings. So, for those who don't know, Pilot Games is a game show where I pitch Andrew 3 show log lines. 2 of them are real, 1 of them is fake. And it's up to Andrew to figure out which is the fake one. And I don't know. I don't know how you're gonna do this week. We'll see. So, the first one follows a team of down-and-out women in suburban Arizona as they fight their way to the top of a cutthroat world of a multi-level marketing cosmetics business. Oh, whoops, I'm reading the wrong one. That was last week. I still have last week's notes open, which shows you how good I am at, like, changing things over. Here we go. This comedy drama follows an influencer group who are used to being the talk of the town. When a rival group starts encroaching in their town, they'll have to use every tool in their arsenal to put the newbies in their place. A high-concept single-camera comedy from the writers behind The Hangover, set in the world of a sexy Manhattan bar chronicling the exploits of singles in search of love, all over the course of one night. And 3. A reformed party girl named Kate finds herself with an instant family when she falls in love with a man named Brad, who has 3 manipulative children and 2 judgmental ex-wives. So, Andrew, out of those 3, which do you think is the fake one?
I'm pretty confident that the first one was real. I vaguely remember seeing something about, not the first one, the second one. Did I say the second one?
Okay. You said the first one.
No, the second one.
Okay.
But the single camera comedy is kind of throwing me off. Like I vaguely know of a show that did some sort of show like that, I think. The third one sounds also good. I will say the first one does not, because when you started talking about the one last week, I have Arizona stuck in my head, and I was like, nobody's gonna do an influencer group in Arizona. An
influencer group. I guess it would be like an old people like influencer group in Arizona,
right? No, I'm gonna say that the third one is the fake one.
The third one's the fake one.
Yeah.
Okay, locking it in.
Yeah.
It was the first one. The first one was the fake one.
I should have went with my gut.
Yeah, I was having trouble with this one for some reason. I just couldn't get any logline that I liked. But yeah, first one was the fake one. The second one was called Mixology. It only got a single season.
Yeah, I remember. No, yeah, I know that. I know that name.
Like, seems like a cool concept, but I don't know. From the stills I saw, it does not seem like they did it a service. And the last one was called Trophy Wife, and it only got a season. And it's also another show that only got a season.
I want to see if I got that one too. I want to know if I remember that one too.
You might. I haven't heard of either of these shows.
No, I know Mixology. I know. I was like, that one I know is a show, but I don't remember what it was. Trophy Wife TV series was on ABC in 2013.
Yeah, sounds like an ABC show.
It got 22 episodes.
22 episodes?
So it got a full season. Yeah.
Wow. That is surprising.
And it got positive reviews.
And ABC canceled
it. Said it was the 10th best new TV show of 2013.
Was that out of 11 new TV shows?
Apparently. And then I don't know what happened after
surprised. That. Yeah, it just seems like, I don't know, they just stopped making it for some reason.
Canceled it right before the season finale.
Wow, that's rough.
And Mixology is that one, because when you said The Hangover,
gotcha.
people, yeah, I do know this show. This was on also ABC, same time frame actually. And they canceled it on the same day as they canceled Trophy Wife. So
it's a bad day for shows.
It only got 13 episodes, but yes,
yeah.
I do remember this because maybe I guess I don't know the directors of The Hangover.
I don't know.
I thought I did.
River's not
But
my thing.
either way, I do know this one because I know of one of the actors, Adnan Kanto. I do remember seeing his face in this show.
Okay.
So,
Gotcha.
yep.
Okay, well, thank you for playing again, Andrew. Hopefully I'll have a much better one next week where I didn't feel like I'm phoning it in. But let's move on to some better things that are coming out in the new movies that are coming soon. And this week, there's only one new movie coming out according to IMDb. And I don't know if I care to see it. So let's just talk about it next week, too. Because I know there's a movie next week you want to talk about.
Yeah, Batman's coming out next week.
Batman.
So,
oh, Batman's long.
Yeah,
that's
Batman
almost 3 hours. Oh my god. That's a lot of movie.
Yeah. I'm very kind of excited to see this movie. Everything I've been seeing about it has been good so far. Like, I was very skeptical about it. When they first announced Robert Pattinson was going to be Batman, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I'd like, after seeing Christian Bale, after seeing Ben Affleck, I was like, we're gonna get Robert Pattinson. And then I was thinking, I was like, oh, maybe they're gonna set up like Batman Beyond Batman, because that would be awesome if they like set up Batman Beyond. But then after seeing the trailers and stuff, I don't think that's the case, but it still looks good anyway.
Yeah, see, I think everyone gets confused with Robert Pattinson because they always associate him with Twilight. But like, if you look at anything else he's done, like, he's a really good actor, like, surprisingly good.
Well, yeah, like, he's a good actor. It's just when you pull up his IMDb page, he's known for Twilight, Twilight Saga Eclipse, Twilight Saga Breaking Dawn, and then Remember Me. Those are the 4 things that are listed on his primary IMDb page. So it's like, it's not like Tenet or what's another movie? What's that elephant movie he was in? Water for Elephants. He was in that.
See, the movie I always associate him with is because I never saw the Twilight movies. So my first exposure to him was The Lighthouse. And he's fantastic in that.
Oh, I mean, he was in Harry Potter.
Was he? Not. What's his name? Robert Pattinson
Cedric
was in
Diggory.
Harry Potter?
Yeah, he played Cedric Diggory in The Goblet of Fire.
I was not a Harry Potter person, so I would not remember him that. But like
that was his. It was his 3rd movie he'd ever done. Oh, okay. And he's also not done a lot of movies. Like, he's not done a lot of stuff. Like, if you look at his IMDb page, it's like maybe 25, 30 things that he's been in. So he's recently been in, 1, 2, 3 movies in 2020, 3 movies in 2019, 2 in 2018.
I think he's doing the Daniel Radcliffe thing where he's riding the wave of money he made off of his franchise and using that to do some like good art films or projects he's really fucking interested in. And it shows. He's doing some weird stuff and I like it.
I mean, Daniel Radcliffe's been in a lot. I think he's been in a lot more.
But he's also been in a lot weirder stuff too. I don't know if you ever saw Swiss Army Man. That is a weird movie.
I kind of wanted to. Yeah, he was in 41. He's got 41 credits to his name. I forgot that it actually has the number at the top. No, 38. So he's been in just about as many films as Robert Pattinson has. But Robert Pattinson did a lot of Broadway too, not Broadway, but
a lot of theater.
Yeah, theater in London. What's
also
the theater district in London?
I have no idea.
I can't remember what it is, but I think he did a lot of that. But yes, so not only is the Batman coming out. Well, that's actually, never mind. That's the only thing coming out next week. So I thought something else was coming out.
I will also be curious to see how receptive people are to a nearly 3-hour-long movie. Because I remember people were griping a lot when The Irishman came out, and that was like 3.5 hours long. I'm a little curious to see how a large audience is going to deal with an almost 3-hour-long movie.
That's the thing about that. Like, didn't that win the Academy Award for best
Maybe.
picture?
I'm not sure.
The Irishman. I think it was up for it. But the thing about The Irishman is The Irishman was a bunch of old people sitting around, and like wasn't it like a mob movie? I didn't see it.
It was a mob movie from what I remember.
It was a mob movie, but it was like with a bunch of older actors. So it's like, are they just gonna like sit around the whole time and whatever? That movie was actually 3.5 hours long.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, 3.5 hours.
So this one is the Batman is like 250.
It's like 255, which is basically 3 hours. But what was I gonna say? I had something else. I mean, what I'll also add is that I don't think Batman's gonna, like, there will definitely be action scenes, but it's, first off, the villain's also the Riddler, who I assume is not going to be a very, like, fighty, punchy enemy. And it's, again, almost 3 hours long. There's no way he's going to be fighting that a whole time. There's probably going to be a lot of scenes where he is just sitting around, either looking over clues or talking with people.
It's got Riddler. It's got Penguin.
Oh, he's in it too?
It's got Catwoman.
Even still, the Penguin's another villain who I would not associate with being a very physical, like, attacky dude. Someone who would play a lot of mind games with you.
You also didn't think about that, like, with... I was trying to think of, like, one of the Christian Bale Batmans. I mean, Ra's al Ghul, like, the setup for the first Batman movie, like, Batman Begins, it had Scarecrow and Ra's al Ghul. So you don't really... Ra's al Ghul maybe because he's got League of Villains, so he's got all the assassins, but like Scarecrow, he's not a very punchy villain. He uses fear toxin to incapacitate people. But I mean, from what I've seen from the trailers of the Batman, there's plenty of it, and like there's a chase scene because he's got a cool looking Batmobile and all this other stuff. So I'm very excited. I can't wait.
I might actually see this if you end up giving it a good review, because it looks like an interesting take on Batman. Plus, the Riddler seems like one of those like interesting.
It's a different Riddler
villains.
too. It's not because it's not.
It's not like
it's not Jim Carrey Riddler with the green
the question marks
tights and the question marks. Yes. It's not that Riddler. It's also not Riddler that you would expect from maybe the Batman Arkham games that have been out in the last few years, or the last 10 years. It's a more sadistic, like it's a very much darker Riddler.
I will also say, because this is also another thing that makes me interested in this movie, and it was something I heard someone say a long time ago, is that we get a lot of Batman takes about him being the superhero, but we don't see him going back to his roots, the detective. Because that's what I think he was known for originally, is that he was this. He's a very smart detective. He's able to track down people and figure out crimes and all that stuff. And this seems like it has potential to do that.
You got a little bit of that during The Dark Knight.
A little bit.
You got that scene in The Dark Knight where he pulls the shell casing out of the wall and puts it, like, reconfigures it at his, like, bat cave and gets the fingerprint off of it to find out where exactly the next event is going to happen. I mean, you did get a little bit of something like that.
You get a very tiny amount of it. And also that I don't know, that scene was a little ridiculous, at least to me. But this seems like a little more grounded, where it's like,
it's a lot more punchy recently. You haven't really gotten a full-on detective type of Batman from like the comics or
like let's solve a mystery,
the games or anything.
Yeah. So if it is like that, I will be interested to see how that take goes.
And we'll see, because like I said, they may set up. Obviously, it's not going to be part of the DC extended universe. It could be, especially when you have a movie like Flashpoint coming out, which is going to set up a different timeline and a different it's going to set up the multiverse theory for the DCEU. So you never know. This could be a different version of Batman on like Earth 2 or like Earth 5 or whatever.
Yeah.
It could still be in the DCEU, but just in a different
universe. Own thing.
Yeah.
Well, hopefully it ends up being good, because I would like to see it. But
yeah, DC needs a win. From recent, like they haven't had a win since. I mean, Suicide Squad was good. It was a little campy.
Was the newest Wonder Woman good?
No.
Was it not? Okay.
No.
I don't keep
I watched
up
it
with
on
DC.
it came out Christmas 2 years ago. 2
Mhm.
Christmases ago. That movie is terrible. I watched it on Christmas and I was like, "Wow, this is bad." Which is unfortunate because it had Pedro Pascal in it.
Yeah.
But what is it? I don't know. The last good DCEU movie was really like The Dark Knight, in my opinion. So,
Well,
yeah.
we shall see. But on that note, Andrew, do you have anything you want to plug for this week?
Nope. I gotta go pick up my food because I think it's outside.
Also fair. Yeah, I don't really have anything to plug either. So we will end it here on a rather abrupt note. Thank you for watching The Filmmaker's Basement. I'm Brandon.
Andrew.
And we will see you all next time. Thank you very much. Goodbye.